Hello Monster Handlers, in the Creator Month kickoff we got a lot of announcements for new updates, but my favorite by far was the little teaser at the end. A lot of you probably saw this and thought, Mech Islet, but I saw it and thought, Mech Islet and lore! So welcome Monster Handlers to my first monster theory. I've studied the lore and I've discovered a lot of things that I think you guys will be excited to hear about. From fascinating ideas of why the islets are created to the exact story of the Summer Song 2025 trailer, I've got a bunch of cool predictions for you, so let's just get started. First, let's take a look at the teaser itself. It's Vinchin in front of his device that we saw him use last year in the Summer Song trailer. We can see characters on the panel which translate to the word warp with a question mark. Warp? This will be important. From this image alone, my first thought was that he had somehow invented some sort of warping device. But if you go back to Summer Song 2024, where you can see him building this, we know that it's actually a transmitter. We saw Hula in the Clubox pick up the signal and warp them there. So basically it's just a communication device, which means that Vinchin sent out the word warp. But why would he send out the word warp? Well, it's mainly because of the events in last year's trailer. Let's break it down. First, we saw Vinchin sending out an SOS signal, which was picked up by Hula, who then transported the monsters to the Clubox, thinking it was a request for entry. The Ethereal Workshop monsters, probably because they were too unstable, were pretty hyper in the Clubox. And once Oogity appeared, needless to say, that was the last straw. So Hula sent them straight back to Ethereal Workshop. Well, now, this year, Vinchin's trying again. But he's smart, so this time he's asking if she will warp him there again. Based off the experience from last time, I doubt that Hula will let them through. But then, what's the point of including that scene in the trailer? Of course, it's gonna be to reveal Mech Islet, but how? Well, who else is gonna hear the signal? Zarroë. They're literally inside Zarroë's head, and I'm pretty sure that it can pick up signals. You may be saying, Austin, wait, slow down, what do you mean it can hear signals? It's like a radio broadcast, you can't just hear a radio broadcast. Well, first off, these are monsters, you don't really know what they can do, but second, I believe we have solid proof that it can hear the signals. We know that Vinchin sent out his first signal in July of 2024, and the first time we saw the hand was in October. We know from the description on Plasma Islet that this was a project that it wanted to do, but we never knew why. We knew that it was jealous of the other entities who were in the mirror dimensions, but why couldn't it have just sent in the singles and doubles? They're much more stable than the triples and quads, so what's even the point? I believe Zarroë started making the islets in the first place because of the distress signals it heard from inside its head. It knew the workshop monsters, especially Vinchin, didn't like to live there, which gave it extra motivation to bust through the rift between the pocket dimension and the mirror dimension when it was weakened by the creation of the magical islands. Once it busted through, it created a new safe place for the workshop monsters to live. I love this idea because it means that Vinchin's signals were the reason that the islets were created. And it also means that they've been teasing the islets since July, not October. That's way before we actually thought they started teasing for the islets, which is mind-blowing. We always knew they had a content plan, but I never knew they were planning this far ahead with their teasers. But that leads to another question, which is, why didn't Zarroë just grab Vinchin first instead of Whale? I have a couple theories. First, I don't think it knew who was sending the signal, it just heard the signal itself. Once it heard the signal, it started grabbing whales starting in December, and Plasma Islet was revealed in February. But my second theory is that it did know it was Vinchin, but it was testing out the waters with a more stable monster before sending in Vinchin. Now that it knows that its islets are safe for the monsters to go to, it'll start sending in more monsters, starting with Vinchin. Okay, so we kind of got off track, but the point is we know that Zarroë can hear the signals. So since Vinchin can't get into the Clubox because Hula won't let him in because of what happened last year, Zarroë will grab him and take him to Mech Islet. We'll see all of the monsters, we'll get to see the new islet, we'll get to see the primordial, etc. It's gonna be awesome. In conclusion, we know that Mech Islet is coming on Summer Song. We know the reason that Zarroë created the islets in the first place was because of Vinchin's cries for help. We know that Zarroë started with Plasma Islet because it was the most stable element and it needed to test out the waters before bringing in more unstable monsters. And by proxy, we know that the reason Mech Islet is coming next instead of Shadow, even though Shadow is more stable, is because of how desperate Vinchin is to get off the workshop. So those are my theories, guys. What do you think? I'm really excited by the idea, but honestly, it could be wrong. Hopefully, I will be completely vindicated by Summer Song, but we'll see. This is the first real theory video I've ever made, so I'll be curious to hear your opinions on it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to hit the subscribe button so you'll know when new videos of mine come out. I'm trying to get 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year, which sounds really crazy, but I know we can do it. Thank you again to my channel members. If this is a little outdated, I'm sorry. I am currently at summer camp as of the release of this video. If you want to see me break down the whole Plasma Islet trailer, trailer, click the video to my right. It's one of my favorites. And to the left is a full breakdown of all the things that came in the last update of My Singing Monsters. And I hope to see you there, but until next time, that's just a theory. A monster theory! And happy monstering.